Hi everybody, Gisele Grenier here from artplace.ca. Well, today's workshop demonstration, technique demonstration, we get to be messy. And I wanted to show you some backgrounds that I did in the 2012 version of my background series. Now, I actually named the 2013 series as the Bob and Doug project. And the Bob is Book of Backgrounds 2013, and the Doug, now I'm going to probably say this wrong, and this was I put out some a request for some ideas for the Doug acronym, and it's doing our unusual genre, and that was from Deborah, who's part of our creative art journaling group. So thank you, Deborah. So that's absolutely wonderful. Anyways, so this is from my 2012 version. Now these ones here, this is from a full-size watercolor sheet that I did the entire background on that, and then I cut them down. And what I do with some pieces is that I actually put a big eyelet in them, because this is also double-sided, which we're going to do in this one as well. And what we end up with is that it's a swatch thing, and it's for inspiration. Because I can take this, cut pieces out of it. I've got larger pieces. So here's another one. There's the back. There's this side. So we're going to do that as well. And because there's so many different things we can do with this type of design, I'm going to be now starting to combine techniques. So whereas before we just did everything with backgrounds, and now we're going to combine one or more techniques within a background. For this one here, it's going to be strictly a background, and then the next video is going to be taking the background, and then we're going to incorporate some stenciling on top of that. Then there'll be one where there'll be some splatters with metallic paint. Then there'll be oh goodness, then some metallic rubs. So now I'm starting to combine different things, and as well as using bubble wrap and oh, there's a whole bunch of stuff, collage. Okay, so with this one here now, the good thing about this is that you can do it on bigger sheets and then just cut the pieces down or tear the pieces down to a size that you want. Okay, or you can do it on an actual piece. If you're doing it on a large piece, which is really cool because your backgrounds will have the same look, but the pages will have a different design, is that you simply take your piece here, okay, like this, and then like measure, okay, measure to where you, like for where you want. So pretend this is the big size, and I want to, let's say here. So I'm going to basically just fold it right here. And where's my burnishing tool? Okay, well, we don't all have a bone folder, so most of us have a stylus or an embossing tool. And burnishing just gets a nice crease here. And then just go back and forth. And then what you can do is you can tear it. The tear always looks the nicest. Like that. Okay, and you can do that. Now mind you, remember, I was doing this on full 22 by 30 something sheets of paper, so you'll get nice 8 by 10 sheets out of that. Then the tear edge, then you can take some paint and you can just go over the edge, or some distress ink, and just go over the edge to antique it if you want, or age it. Okay, so I'm just going to put these aside now. Aside where? I'm out of room. Let's put these here. Okay. So the Strathmore Visual Journal now, all the front side, like the one sides, are all done now. Now we're working on the back sides. And this is where some of them there'll be like some stuff on the back. I don't care, because that just makes the page even more unique. What I'm really going to be curious on is this one here, is that if I can get some stuff to transfer over here, which would be really cool. So what I'm going to do is, with these ones here, they are two-sided pages, but because I already have one side done on in the Strathmore Journal, is I'm going to use two pieces. Okay, but you can basically do the same technique using one sheet of paper. What I'm going to do with this one is I'm going to do the background on here and let everything kind of splash out onto my no-stick mat. Then what I'm going to do is that this piece here, then I'm going to drape this and kind of push it into to start getting some stuff happening in here. Remember, we're combining techniques now. And this is where you get to have so much fun. Not that we weren't having fun before, but it's even more now being messy. So what I did here, and I prepared everything except for 2 piles, is I have some really, really nice colors, and you can see that these ones here are relatively close to each other on the color wheel. We have violets, okay, we have red violets here, we have violet here, and blues, and this is Prussian blue. So on the color wheel, this is quinacridone violet, okay, which is more on the red side. Okay, then we have red violet, which is a bit more on the blue side, dioxazine purple, and then we have sapphire blue, which is a mixture. Now, I'll talk about that in a second. Sapphire blue, ultramarine blue, and Prussian blue. And I'm going to turn the bottles here just so I can see. This one and this one all have phthalo blue as its base. This one here, though, phthalo blue with a little bit of PB29, which is ultramarine blue, okay, and then some white. And this is Prussian blue, phthalo blue with black. Okay, and I've been frequently asked, why am I using a mixed paint like this, okay, when I already have the single pigments and I just make it myself. When I teach fine art lessons, where we're color theory and that, then I will use the single pigments and to color mix. But when it comes to art journaling and mixed media, I would rather spend the time talking over technique and design instead of spending a half an hour explaining color theory and taking 3 pigments to make this. If you already have it, that's fine, but you know, it's just, I'd rather save the time and just use something that's pre-mixed. Now, to each of these piles, I added an equal amount of watercolor medium. Now, I am going to be doing a demonstration in another video using actual watercolor paint and gouache using this similar method, okay? But this one here is the Traditions with the watercolor medium, and because this is professional quality paint, whereas the watercolors, depending on what I'm going to show you, like the line nickel watercolors aren't as high quality as this. They're more for an intermediate level. So I'm just giving a wide variety. Okay, and we're also going to be covering watercolor pencils and watercolor crayons and stuff like that later on. So equal amount, and then a palette knife, and you really want to get this mixed in. And what it gives you is something that's similar to a watercolor product. Okay, and then the Prussian blue. I always keep calling this phthalo blue. It's Prussian blue. A very, very dark blue-black. Phthalo blue is blue that's on the green side, very powerful, potent, and then black added. And this is a alternative mix because you can get true Prussian blue. And I believe it's the true Prussian blue, like true alizarin crimson, is fugitive, so it fades over time. I also have my Mr. bottle. And we'll start with this page first because this one I'm most excited about. So I'm going to turn it over. Now, if you didn't want to do anything, like damage anything on here with color, tape some wax paper just to basically seal the edges. For me, I'm actually counting on getting something in here. And for brushes, I'm just going to use a very large 1-inch brush, and I'm going to spray this. Okay, and we're just going to have some fun with this. So I'm going to start off first with a little bit of ultramarine blue, and I'm going to want to make this like these really watery. Similar, and you would use them from at this point now just the same as you would with watercolors. So when I was doing the 2012 version, because I was working on such a large sheet that I didn't actually have to do all this holding down and stuff like this. It just, because I was tearing the pages. So I'm just going to kind of need more water. The whole thing with this is wet, 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 wet. There we go. Like this. Okay. Like so. And you get the shine because it is wet. And now I'll come in with a little bit of dioxazine purple, more water. Yeah, these need to be really, and that's the thing with the Traditions paints, is that they are very thick and concentrated. So I am going to add a lot of water. And this here, this beading, this is what I'm counting on. So put that there, then I'll turn that, and we'll get some really interesting patterns. And if something's not moving, just spray a little bit more. Get something happening. Okay. And let's see, let's get some more in here. Now, if you didn't want to lose this, you could dry it. Right now, I just want to get something going. All right. Now, this is a really cool part. This is where you can actually do some really, really neat stuff. I'm going to take my Fabulous Fine Point Liner. It is actually called a Fabulous Fine Point Liner. It's like this. And I'm going to go into some red violet. And it's got to be soupy, soupy, soupy. And I can come in and I could just drizzle or tap and splash. I love this. If I like what I have here, I'm going to go with the heat gun. You can do this as much as you want. I want to keep these. I can also, let me set this first. I can set this, just to show you. I know heat gun stuff is tedious, but there's a reason I'm going to show you this. Till it's perfectly dry. This is still wet out here. Then I can come in and I can start doing stuff here which won't disturb this. Let's get that moving down there. So if there's one thing on your page that you don't want to change its look on, heat set that first. And when I say heat set, I don't mean like fabric heat set, I mean just dry it. You see I'm kind of dragging my page in here. Let's see if I really want to. And I'm not looking underneath until I'm done, because I want it to be a surprise. And as well, when I dry this, see this nice line here? I want to try to keep that. So what I'm doing is I'm positioning the heat gun this way to push the paint this way, but because this is dry, it has nowhere to go. So it's going to leave a nice crisp line there. I could just envision my hydrometer outside spinning like crazy. And Mia was desensitized to the heat gun, but because I've been on so long, she decided to leave the room. That takes care of that. Okay? Now, let's go with a little bit more of this one here. And let's we can do some more splashes. And then, now even though we've got the watercolor medium in the paint, rinse your brushes. You don't want to get that stuff stuck in there. A little bit of Prussian blue. Now with the Prussian blue, I can just do this in the large brush. And if it's too concentrated, come in with the water. See how that's just kind of spreading? Okay, if you like what you have there, then you can heat set it, or you can basically come in and do something else. I like that. I don't know if you can see that. Where I went right over here and it's kind of put in a matching dot on the edge. And let's see if I want to just make a block here, like so. All right, I can choose to heat set that or leave it the way it is. And I'm going to go in now with a little bit of sapphire blue. And I'm just going to lay the paint down. I'm going to go right over this. Makes it look like it's dragging. Let's see if I can get some. Nope, not enough water. I'm just going to pick up a bit more water. Some sapphire blue. This brush holds a lot, but it's... There we go. Let's just see if we can get it to... I want big splashes. I have to be careful when I do the splashes because the camera equipment gets covered in paint. That's cool. And I don't want to lose that. Now, if I didn't want to lose this, I could actually just let this dry naturally. But I'm really liking what I have here. Get a little bit more water. A bit more Prussian blue. And this is actually really cool if you use like bright red paint. Right, it does look like blood splatter, but if you want to make a background, you know, both, you know, if you're making a political statement or whatever, you could use red. You could also use this and you can just make some scrolls. This brush is perfect for this. Okay, and here I'm going to take this. I want to fade that out. If you want to add even further, more texture, let's get a paper towel. You've got some texture in here. I could lay this right on top. Press gently. And you get some really nice texture in there. Now, I don't want to lose those lines, so I would take the heat gun and basically now just set it. Now, if you don't have watercolors or the watercolor medium, use just regular acrylics with this. And just use water to thin it down, or an extender. If you use too much water with acrylics, though, sometimes you run the risk of breaking down the strength of the pigment. You could always put a matte varnish on top. Alright, I probably should have worn my apron. I'm wearing my nice shirt. Now I'm going to go into some quinacridone violet. And I'm just going to get some red in there. There we go. I'm just going to kind of get all the excess off of there. Just go into a little bit of water, and I could do it here as well. I can splash some more. I love the big splash. I just have to be so careful not to get it on my camera equipment and on my shirt. So use caution when doing this technique. And now let's heat that again. I don't want to lose these marks, so I'm going to do it from high above just to get it where it's just dry enough that I can actually move the page. Before I do anything, I want to take some more Prussian blue, and I want to get larger, darker. Where's my Mr. Bottle. Hold it straight up high. Well, try again. You're going to try for here. Straight up high as it can go. The higher the brush, the larger the splat. Let's do another one nice and high. That's kind of cool. And I just thought, why don't I could use one of my water brushes. I'll dump out some of the water. Okay. And I could take some paint, put it inside the container, make sure you rinse this really well though, because there's an actual brush attached to it. And if you're using acrylics, you have to clean everything after each use. This is primarily more for watercolors. A water brush will make a nice splash. So you can put it in here. Now I'm going to squeeze the air out, go back in, and this will help suck up some of the paint that's on the palette. Then from here up high, let's see if I can do it where, then I squeeze, there we go. I got some on my shirt. Joe's going to have a conniption. This here, then you need to wash right away. If you're just using straight watercolors or ink, then you're fine. I didn't quite make as much of a mess as I thought I would though. I thought I was going to make more of a mess. Let's do this. Turn it, press, lift, turn. Ooh, I like that. Now what do you press with? What do you press with? Take your palette knife. You can do this to make lines. You can take your paper towel again, but then you're going to end up removing some of this dark paint, and that I don't want to do. You can take a brayer, but what I would recommend, because you're covering the paint underneath, I would heat set this, then just use my hands to press it. Or dry this. I keep saying heat set. I don't mean heat set, I mean dry. These are absolutely beautiful. So different and so random. I've also done backgrounds like this where I've used these types of backgrounds for an actual formal painting. Like I did a background like this, it was more in the peaches and reds, and I did a portrait of my granddaughter, and this was the background. Where she was very done elegantly, and the background was done almost like graffiti, and was really quite nice, quite the contrast in style, so it was really nice. Okay. And you could, like again, you can let this dry naturally, or you can use the heat gun, but before you press it down, if you don't want to disturb any of this, make sure it's totally dry. I don't have the patience for that, so I'm going to get a piece of wax paper, and I'm just going to push. Look at that. Ooh, that's neat. That is so cool. There we go. So that gave us something to work with. So that's just another way that you can do a background, is just do it on here. There. Love that. Let me just dry this. So I don't want to lose any of this. So you can paint your background on your no stick. If you don't have a no stick mat, put down some saran wrap. You just want to capture all the paint. So the colors I used were quinacridone violet, red violet, dioxazine purple, sapphire blue, ultramarine blue, and Prussian blue. Use whatever colors you want. Now you don't even have to use the basically the artist quality materials. I could do this with the Americana paint as well. Americana craft paint, which is a very high quality craft paint. Those colors though don't have the pigments listed on them, but they're really good for general use. There we go. So there's one background done. Isn't that neat? How random is that? Now I'm going to do another background. I'm going to feature more of the violets and the yellows using the same technique, but we're going to do a little bit of glazing on that. Okay, so this is quite lovely. So I'm going to get my piece of wax paper. I'm going to put this aside. I'm not even going to clean this. And now this one here, I've got this background, so who knows what's going to happen in here. And I'm going to follow basically the same thing. First am I going to need any of this? Yeah, let's just keep it. Let's just keep it. And I'm going to get a different brush. Now because the blues and the yellows are opposite on the color wheel, if you happen to get a brush that has blue into the yellow, what are you going to get? Green. And if you don't want that, then just use a different brush. Oh, this one has a little bit of purple in there. See this spot here? There must have been, oh, there's something in here. The paper must have been weakened. There's a bubble right here. There's a bubble. So if that happens, you could stop and then you can put a layer of acrylic gesso on your page if that worries you. So I'm going to take some now. This is Indian yellow. And I'm just going to put this over everything. Some parts will be thick, some parts will be thin, some parts will be on my shirt. Let some of the paint drag. That's neat. Let some of the natural dry areas of the paper just grab the paint. And when doing this in individual sheets where you're randomly picking the pages, is that you're not going to be set on a certain style, because now you've got this, and when you flip it you're going to have this background. And now I'm going to go into a little bit of transparent yellow iron oxide, one of my favorite paints. I love this color. Very intense. Okay, and I'm going to, let's get some splashes of yellow in here. Need a little bit of water. I gotta get some clean water. Okay, we're gonna dry that. So you can do this any way you want. There really is no rule to this, other than if your paint is wet, try to keep the paints that are next to each other on the color wheel what goes down wet, and the opposites on the color wheel let this dry otherwise. But then, mind you, if you want to pick up some blue and do that, and blue paint and yellow paint, when they're wet, they're going to turn green. So if you know that, then that's fine. But if you want distinctive yellow and blue splashes, then dry each layer as it goes. In saying that, let's pick up a little bit of blue. I'll take some ultramarine blue. There we go, I got into some of that yellow. And the more water you add, the thinner the pigment will get. Oh, I've got some sapphire blue in there. That's fine. Let's see what happens. Okay. And I'm going to go now with another brush into some red violet. Let's see what happens here. Ooh, landscapers are outside. There's a resist here. So I think some of that crackle medium transferred to the back side. Okay, let's dry this. I'm just gonna, and what this is doing is distressing the edges. Let's see if I can. I just wanted to rough that up a little bit. This is hard to do when you only have one hand. They're going to let this dry completely, and then I'm going to put a wash of quinacridone violet over the whole thing. Let's pick up a little bit of those splotches. There's something happening there. Let's dry it again. And I know the drying is tedious, so if you find that boring, that just fast forward. But I'm showing it because things change as the piece is being done. And quinacridone violet. Over the whole piece. Make sure everything is dry. Okay, then you can take a baby wipe. I forgot to glue down my piece here. You can take a baby wipe, and then, I actually like that the way it is. You can come in and you can just wipe back, and what you're going to end up with is pieces being removed that were exposed when you put the paint down. The key is a clean baby wipe each time. Beautiful. Oh, look at that. Gorgeous. But if you use a dirty baby wipe, all you're going to do is put that color back where the areas are with the resist from whatever was there before. Look at that. Oops, that's wiped off a little bit. Wasn't my intention to completely get rid of that, but that looks really pretty. Now the resist you could do by splashing down some varnish first on white paper. This is more than likely from this. When I was putting that on, I may have moved and some of it may have transferred. Who knows? I couldn't teach you how to do this, but I can give you some ideas of what to use to create the resist. Beautiful. And it keeps coming up and coming up because it's the watercolor medium. Now once you're set to what you like, I'm going to come back and I want to now go into the red violet and I'm going to frame it with red violet very roughly, even allowing some of the drag strokes to show. You can even put in some geometric shapes if you want. Okay. And then I'm going to dry that. And once this is dry, this background will be finished. So basically with this, we covered off a resist from some unknown source, but you can create a resist by splashing on some varnish, some decoupage, medium, anything, gesso, whatever. And then by layering colors and how the colors kind of change because we're layering, wiping stuff away. And I don't want to lose any of this, so I'm going to dry it to as much as I can go. Also creating texture by using paper towel, wiping with a baby wipe. So got a few techniques going on here. This is beautiful. What do we have in here? Oh, a little bit of stuff got transferred over, not too much. So let's just pick some of that up. Actually, I could just basically turn this over to transfer even more to the paper underneath. And see, some of that stuff got transferred over, so I can just take it and I can wipe it down. It'll go inside the cracks. There we go. So that page is finished. What a mess, eh? Holy smokes. So let me get the other one. There we go. So now you have splashed pages. Here we are. So splash pages, and you can do this with watercolors, with acrylics, any type of basically wet paint with water that you can really water it down. And so we have this piece here, then you flip it, you've got that, then you've got that. Or you can do it this way. You've got this, you've got that, and you've got that. So it's up to you. These are closer together. It's up to you how you want it done. You don't think with this one, you can't really do it this way, upside down, unless you want to. Okay? So you can have your spread this way or have your spread this way. Totally up to you. And then from here, and this is where you can start building up your page with other stuff. You can put on some, like splash on some more varnish or multi-surface sealer or some decoupage, something transparent, let it dry, then repeat the whole process over again, wipe back, and then you get even different patterns. Okay, you can do some more dripping, you can do some more splashing, totally up to you. If I wanted to do some splashing with the red paint, then I can come in and just do something light, and if I wanted to make it even more subtle, come in with a baby wipe, push down and lift off, push down and lift off. Don't wipe, otherwise you're going to wipe it away. When you've got your page, if it was done with watercolors, once you've got your page to the way you want and you really like it, oh, I have to reach, sorry, give it a misting of Spectrafix. If you use a varnish on this to actually seal the whole thing, because it's, whether it's the watercolors or the acrylics with the watercolor medium, you may disturb some of the pattern, but if you use a fixative, then it'll be all right. And this is Spectrafix, and it's a workable fixative. The only, well, this product has been out for a few years, but it's the only one that I know of that can be used indoors. I don't know if any other companies have come up with something compatible, but it's a fixative that you can use indoors. With this, though, what you have to be careful on is to bring it, it's in the States, and to bring it into Canada, I can only bring in the concentrates. And then what you do is you pour the concentrate bottle into this, then top it up with pure grain alcohol. So I used vodka to top it up. Vodka's flammable. So when you're spraying, okay, I am going to use a heat gun. Use the heat gun further up so it's basically just almost air. You don't want to set your page on fire. As with any product, okay, it doesn't matter. It's not just this. If you use regular fixative, if you use how I showed before, the alcohol splatters to do the blooming, anything, okay, unless it says non-flammable, it's flammable. Even if you put your heat gun too close to the paper without this, it may catch fire. So just use common sense. And what you want to do is once you put on your layer, it's between each layer, it's like for fine art, I apply a misting of that between each layer of work, okay? And then what you do is you let it evaporate, the alcohol evaporates, so what's left behind is the fixative. And then from there you can paint more, apply another layer, do whatever you want. But you read the full directions on the bottle. Now, because there's alcohol involved, you don't let kids use this unsupervised. But I do, when I teach teach young people art, this is what I have them use. So you just make sure that they're supervised. 5 minutes, you can use this over drawings, oil paintings, whatever. And you can go to the website for more information. And then what this is doing is it's protecting the watercolor layer without disturbing anything. What I do with the pastels, we are going to cover pastels in another video. What I've also done is, let's say if I've done a pastel of an eye and the pupil, the blackest part of the eye, I will take the Spectrafix with a paintbrush and just fix the pupil. And that makes it'll never disturb. I've created inks with Spectrafix. I've got a little thing here. Oh, okay. And we made up this label. This is what we were just doing for a art show. And I took that and a little bit of the Traditions paints with the watercolor medium, a few drops in that, and it makes a nice ink. As with any type of aerosol product, when you're finished, turn your piece upside down over a garbage can and pump it. Okay, what it's going to do, it's going to clear up the nozzle. Okay, and there you go. So this is all set now, ready for work. Oh, it's a little bit wet here. There you go, dry now. Alrighty, so there you go. So there's another set of backgrounds that are done. And again, with this, the style is unlimited, okay? But what I want to do now is I want to go on to, we're going to do another set of, we've got quite a few videos to go. And the next background I'm going to show you in the next video is basically something similar to this, okay? But we're going to add stenciling to it, okay? So I'm combining techniques now. All right, so now we have our full, oh, and with this too, I could also spray this with Spectrafix, because if I were to paint on top of this, I may actually disturb these beautiful lines, so I can just come in. Now, if you did this with watercolors, only watercolors, only acrylics thinned down with watercolors, then you could just put varnish if you didn't, you know, if you needed to. But because I did this with the watercolor medium, it's reconstitutable. It's water soluble, and you don't want to disturb. I love these lines here. There we go. All set. So there's our backgrounds. You can see some beautiful possibilities with this here, and I'm gonna let that dry. This one here, because it's got the this crackle medium on here, that these areas here will dry, but where it's really thick, Air is not able to pass through as much as the unpainted areas, so this will take much longer to dry. This one here, where it will take longer to dry, is underneath these areas here, okay, because it's pure. You can feel it here. It's quite damp. But in about half an hour, they'll be ready to go into a journal to start for some art. But for me, I'm going to call it quits, and I'll start preparing for the next video, which is basically splattered backgrounds like this, but with stenciling. So until then, stay inspired.